Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. This is Virginia, and today we're going to go over the astrology of the new moon in Virgo. The first one of two, and the second one is what we call a black moon, and is also going to be an eclipse new moon. So this is a little bit of a preview of the upcoming solar eclipse. Now, new moons are new beginnings as usual, and as you can see in the graph, the moon is dark because it's between the earth and the sun, so we cannot see it, and that's what it is, a new moon. The moon is conjunct the sun from the perspective of the earth, and this is in Virgo. And this has a spectrum of 6 months up until we have the full moon in Virgo once the sun is opposite in the sign of Pisces next year. And that's how the seeds of intentions that we plant with this new moon take about 6 months to manifest. Now, what is Virgo? Virgo is an earth mutable sign. So is grounded, is adaptable, is dynamic, is center, is practical, is detail oriented, very precise, perfectionist to a fault, but also can be very critical. And is clean, sort of OCD, obsessive compulsive, and is very efficient, reliable, and methodical. And the archetype of Virgo is the archetype of the nurse. And Virgo belongs to the 6th house of work, service, and health, but also service animals or animals in general, because animals come to be of service to men. Though, if you ask my cat, it's the other way around. Now, when the sun is in Virgo from the perspective of the earth is opposite from the perspective of the sun, what we call helio. So the earth would be in Pisces, meaning whatever we plant with this new moon is going to have a spiritual upgrade. So this moon is ruled by Mercury, which is the ruler of Virgo, and happens in the first decan of Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is the messenger of the gods. Mercury represents intellect, communications, is also the merchant planet, so implies transactions and interactions that are commercial as well, and is very intelligent and a critical thinker. If you see the symbol of Mercury, we have the complete circle, which represents the whole, and is on top of the cross, representing as above, so below, and is crowned by the crescent moon, representing receiving messages from the beyond. And Mercury is finally direct, but is in its post-shadow period, so it's still correcting that which we had to go over. And with Mercury in Leo, this is all about communicating from our hearts and express what we want from a place of love. And there's a mutual reception with the sun because they rule each other's sign. Though they're not in aspect, they much rather change places, so they're working together. And this is talk your walk and walk your talk instead of do as I say and not as I do. And they say that between what is said and not meant and what is meant and not said, most of love is lost, and it's a shame. And this comes to correct that. And with the new moon in conjunction with Regulus, the regal star that represents success, fame, and leadership, we want to be cautious not to fall into pride or arrogance that can bring a downfall. And Regulus represents the heart of the lion, and it used to be in Leo, but it transitioned into Virgo in 2011, and then it acquired more of an ethical role, more of a service-oriented tone, because Virgo demands a sense of responsibility and it brings blessings to those who lead through service rather than dominance. Like Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, that is an effective leadership. I highly recommend it. And this new moon is conjunct Trans-Pluto, which is a mathematical point between the outer planets, and it represents the myth of Isis, Persephone, or the Divine Mother. And this is a placement that seeks refining, it's a point of purification, which is not the same as perfectionism, since we have the South Node in Virgo. We have to ditch perfectionism because it only holds us back. If we accept the idea of perfectionism to be a guiding star, yet acknowledging its impossibility, it helps us better ourselves. But otherwise, it cripples us into pursuing an ideal that by definition can never become real, because that which is real can't be ideal. And Persephone is the wife of Hades, aka Pluto, is the lord of the underworld. And she descends into the shadows in fall and ascends in spring, giving rise to the cycle of death, rebirth, and renewal of the seasons. So these themes are brought by the new moon to help us evolve. And there's a finger of God between Pluto, the phoenix bird of death, rebirth, and transformation, helping us reinvent ourselves, and Saturn, which is another grounding energy, all about achievement through personal effort. And they're supporting each other with a sextile, and they're both pointing at the moon in a quincunx. And a quincunx is an annoying aspect that has nothing in common, no polarity, no modality, no element. So you feel that you cannot relate, is pushing you out of your comfort zone, pointing to this new beginning and asking you to step up to the plate. And the new moon is in a square with Uranus, bringing unexpected changes. And this is in a semi-square with Jupiter, that it might feel like is a bit too much. Like, be careful with what you want because you might get it. So are you ready for it? And this is the question that Chiron brings. But because it's in a trine, this is a test that you can pass. And by doing so, by pushing through, this can be very healing for you. And the benefics are no longer conjunct, but they're still witnessing each other in Cancer, where Jupiter is exalted. And Jupiter is in positive aspect with the nodes of fate, past, and future, so he keeps bringing good fortune to the changes coming ahead, even in eclipse season. But now is also square Mars, indicating that we might want to bite more than we can chew. So that's where we have to exercise discernment, to have realistic expectations, not to disappoint ourselves. And with Venus in a mixed bag, making both positive and negative aspects to the outer planets, on one hand trining Saturn and Neptune conjunction, feeling supported and idealistic, and on the other hand is challenged by an opposition with Pluto, where there might be some drama, and in a 10 square with wounded Chiron, that might trigger our wounds. And this can be issues with manipulations or deep-seated intimacy issues. And because Venus is parallel Uranus, there might be some shock that triggers this. And yet is conjunct white moon Lilith, which mitigates the negative influences. So these are opportunities for you to work on these issues in order to resolve them. But Venus is soon to leave Cancer, where she's more of a homebody, and enter Leo, where she's at her joy, and it's more about having fun, where we want to squeeze the end of the summer. And in the next slide, we'll see how Venus will join for the solar eclipse in Virgo, teaching us that maybe we're a bit too critical with those we love, and that no longer flies. And the malefics are still afflicted until Saturn backs into Pisces, where issues from the recent past will pop up for us to restructure our boundaries. But the malefics are also separating from the opposition, so they will be no longer confronting each other. And still, they're in mutual reception because Saturn in Aries is at fall, like the judge in a battlefield, and Mars in Libra is in detriment, like a warrior in a court. So they much rather swap places, and therefore they're working together, also mitigating negative influences. And because Mars is in a sextile with Mercury, we're able to talk sort of in a diplomatic way to meet halfway. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunctions continue to be at the apex of the grand sextile with the outer planets, pretty much till the end of the year, give and take, which indicates that there are bigger conversations to be had, that they're not going anywhere, and for a while. And this involves transformation with Pluto on one end, to build our dreams with the Saturn-Neptune conjunctions, and to rock the boat with Uranus at the other end. So basically, who do you have to be to build what you want to build and have what you want? And because Uranus is in a semi-square with Jupiter, you might feel frustrated of anything that limits your freedom, and you want to break free. And finally, the grand sextile between the outer planets and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction keeps the big themes on the table, assisting with the awakening of the collective, but it takes a minute and it comes in waves as the planets move back and forth, triggering the same places for us to connect the dots. And this is the comparison of this new moon with the next one, which is the solar eclipse, and I will go more into it in another video. But eclipses are lunations on steroids, and they accelerate karma. And if we want to understand what this eclipse season is going to be about, go back to the themes that they were pressing in March, where we had similar eclipses but backwards, meaning the lunar eclipse was with the south node, which both are signature for endings, and the solar eclipse was with the north node, which are both signatures for beginnings. But the ones coming in September, they are flip. The lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, which is about endings, is going to be conjuncting the north node of new beginnings, and the solar eclipse, which is all about new beginnings, is going to be conjunct the south node of endings. So even though beginnings and endings alternate between lunations, here beginnings and endings are going to happen simultaneously. And we can see the new moon with the inner wheel here, and the outer wheel is the eclipse. And most of the planets are in similar positions, except for Saturn that retrogrades back into Pisces, bringing issues around boundaries and making us face delusions. Saturn, representing all structures, are resisting change, and they are gaslighting us to keep in place. Like I previously mentioned, that with Jupiter in Cancer magnifying the home sector, this reminds me of when the North Node was in Cancer and we all got locked down. And now we're seeing some climate change lockdowns in Canada, and even in New Jersey, some farms are facing expropriation through eminent domain for affordable housing when it's actually designated a rural area by law. So here we see how the government, represented by Saturn retrograding, is going back to another try and push around similar issues. But with Uranus retrograding too, this turns this energy inwards, and it's more of an inner experience of realizations, epiphanies, and breakthroughs. So people are not so easily fooled or manipulated these days. And this is what can result in a protest or a form of revolution later on when it goes direct. And as I mentioned, Venus will be at fall in Virgo with trans-Pluto, where it represents more of a conscious love with refinement, devotion, discernment, and service, and basically agape, which is love for all. And with Mercury in Libra, there is a mutual reception because Venus rules Libra and Mercury rules Virgo. And this is where the planet of love and the planet of communication are working together for us to be able to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, where there is a deeper understanding of the reality of the other so we can experience each other. And Mars is going to still be in Libra, but at the 29 anaretic critical degree, which is the last degree where Mars is about to explode because it's done with diplomacy and is ready to move into Scorpio where it rules, so no more beating about the bush, and is ready to take charge and act on what is overdue. So there's a balance of the energies helping us work things out in the midst of change that is unavoidable. And you can see how the new moon opened up the door that the eclipse is going to close in the Virgo area of our charts. And the full moon happens at 0 degree 22 minutes, which is an Aries degree, and is another indication of a new start. Aries is cardinal fire, meaning is a motivation for something new. And 0 is the number of Pluto, which is quincunxing this new moon, which represents a constant transformation where there is no end and no beginning, like the symbol of the Ouroboros, the snake that is eating its tail. 0 is the void and the seed of all potential, and is the Fool's card in the tarot, the energy of initiating a journey. And 22 minutes is net number 4, which is the number of Uranus, which is squaring this new moon, and is introducing innovation, disruption, freedom, and sudden change that liberates you in all directions. And the new moon extends into 23 minutes, which is net number 5, and the number of Mercury, which rules Virgo. And when you have this overlapping of multiple indications pointing to the same thing, is a further confirmation of the energies we're dealing with. Like when in the tarot the same cards come over and over again, there is an insistence for us to pay attention. And for the Sabian symbol, we round up to 1, and is a picture of a man's head, a portrait with his features artistically emphasized, meaning focus, clarity, and refinement. Like when an artist emphasizes that which is essential to strip away that which is unnecessary. And there's a theme of self-definition, the way you want to present yourself to the world, like the picture that you would choose for your bio, for example. And the first decan of Virgo relates to the Eight of Pentacles in the Tarot, which is called the apprentice or the craftsman. And pentacles are earth element, and 8 is the number of Saturn, which is part of the quincunx to the new moon, which points to the dedication, skill development, and the pursuit of mastery through hard work and attention to detail, focus, and perseverance. So that's the energy at play here. And Mercury rules the nervous systems and the small intestines, separating that which is nourishment from bull poop. And therefore, when you're stressed out, it also rules elimination related to nervousness, like when you cannot stop going to the bathroom, for example. So if you happen to find yourself a little agitated during this new moon, you can always take some herbal teas, and this is not medical advice, and why I like to work with edible herbs as part of our diets and daily routine. For adaptogenics, you can use holy basil, also named tulsi, or lion's mane mushroom. If you feel a little bit out of it, you can use some nootropics, which basically mean that they turn your brain on, like matcha, rosemary, and mint, which mint is also cooling to the digestive tract if you have any inflammation. And if you have anxiety, you can use lavender or chamomile tea, which also soothe the GI tract. And for crystals, you can use those that are clear, yellow, or amber, like clear quartz for mental clarity, or amber, which is a fossilized resin, to clear the mind and also soothe the digestive energy when it's placed over the navel. And you can use tiger's eye for grounding and mental clarity, or hematite for grounding and protect from electromagnetic fields that might throw you off your center. And finally, citrine, which supports both metabolism, mental clarity, and stimulates the mind. So let's see how this new moon will affect the US. It falls in the 9th house of expansion and foreign matters. And with so much going on in the world and our role in it, this is a case where it has to be handled with care. And there needs to be some kind of restoration or reparation, because we need to redeem ourselves in the eyes of the world. But with Uranus in Gemini, that historically relates to bellicose conflicts, we'll see how this energy will play out. And also this energy can bring disruptions in the system and the grid, especially affect jobs, the service industry, and the healthcare system, as well as issues with technology, probably due to AI, and maybe crypto. But with Jupiter exalted in Cancer and Venus on the financial axis, this could benefit the financial sector and the real estate sector and the silver market. Not financial advice. And with Mercury in shadow in Leo, there's going to be a lot of speculation and gambling in the market. So be careful, because this new moon starts with eclipse season, and eclipse season is very volatile. Remember March. And with Mars in the midheaven in Libra, we have like tactical diplomatic warfare and or legal battles in the government, and why there might be some strange deployments in certain areas. We don't know the whole story. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, but I don't want to trigger the algorithm or raise any flags. And with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the IC, there are issues of boundaries in the homeland with Saturn, but Neptune creates confusion and is trying to dissolve those structures. So there's a lot more back and forth with immigration crisis, and it might lead to civil conflict. And finally, for your particular horoscope, check your sun, moon, and rising. The sun is like the expression of your soul. The rising is like your ego. And the moon is more of your internal experience. And for Aries, sun, moon, or rising, this new moon happens in your 6th house of daily routine, work, and the service you provide to the world, and how the life-work balance affects your health. And it's also the house of service pets or just pets in general. So there is a new beginning here that might be triggered by that square with Uranus in your third house of communications and peers like siblings, neighbors, or co-workers. It's also the house of daily commute and short distance travel, so be careful in the road, especially in your daily commute. And this would be a good time to start a new diet or exercise routine, a new job, or even adopt a pet. So for Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon starts in your fifth house of creativity, recreation, and procreation. So anywhere from creative projects to dating to having kids. And this is triggered by a square to Uranus in your second house of values. So you might get an unexpected bill and decide that you need to increase your revenue and decide to start a new creative project that might become a second income stream, or you can find a new sense of self-worth and that somehow reflects in your dating life, or there might be a reorganizing of your value system and you decide that it's time to have a baby, or all of the above. So for Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon falls in your fourth house of home, family, roots, and real estate. And there's a square to Uranus in your first house of self. So there is some big changes in you that changes the way you think about home and family, or you decide to get over some deep-seated limiting beliefs that came from your upbringing, or you may experience the need to change your home and your immediate environment, maybe move or renovate a house, or you might decide to live alone or get rid of a roommate or a cohabitation situation that no longer works for you. So for Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon falls in your third house of communication, peers like neighbors and siblings, short distance travel and daily commute, learning, writing, and there's a square of Uranus in your 12th house of spirituality, mental health, institutions, or laws. So there's a new beginning that is related to learning, like taking a new course or a new writing project, or you're changing the way of expressing yourself, especially related to peers, like coworkers, for example, or there's a new commute or relocation that is triggered by some unexpected event. So this could be something related to institutions like hospitals or church, or there's a change in your spiritual or mental health life that affects the way you express yourself, like when someone goes through some kind of program like rehab, for example. And for Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon falls in your second house of values, self-worth, income, and money in possessions in general. And there's a trigger by Uranus in your 11th house of community. So there is some kind of either a new income stream or new expense, or a renewed sense of self-worth, or a reprioritizing of your value system. And there is some kind of relationship with groups and associations, friends, or networking. So you could be recommended for a new position that brings extra income, or your friends decide to go on a trip, on a group trip, and now you have an extra expense, or you want to join some kind of club and you feel that you bring value to your tribe. Just in case, as a word of caution, don't lend any money to friends at this time. So for Virgo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon is in your first house of self, so this is all about you and the way you look. So there's a trigger with Uranus in your 10th house of career and reputation. So there's some kind of new beginning related to you, or a makeover that is related to a change in your career sector. Maybe you were challenged to look more professional, or you want to reinvent yourself to change or improve your reputation, or you find a way to disrupt your industry with a new way of doing things that might streamline the way you do your business. And for Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon falls in your 12th house of mental health and spirituality, rest, institutions, or loss. And is triggered by Uranus in your 9th house of expansion, higher education, and long-distance travel. So there is a new beginning in your spiritual life or your mental health that is related to some kind of institution, or is related to a loss that is triggered by a change or some kind of renewed belief system. So you might be thinking differently about yourself and ditching all self-limiting beliefs, or you might decide to go on a pilgrimage or a spiritual retreat that allows you to let go of that no longer serves you and start anew, or you decide to enroll in a higher education program that starts a new beginning in connection to some kind of institution. So for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon falls in your house of groups and associations, and there's a trigger by Uranus in your 8th house of trust, intimacy, and other people's money. So there is some kind of new beginning in your group of friends, acquaintances, or co-workers, basically your tribe, and there is some kind of trigger that is related to trust issues or investments and other people's money, like shared resources, loans, or revenues from your partnerships. So there might be some kind of new activity in your community or in your circle that relates to trusting others or some kind of money matters related to others, like group projects, for example. And for Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon falls in your 10th house of career and reputation and is in square with Uranus in your 7th house of partnerships. So there is some kind of new beginning or startup in your career that is related to streamlining and perfecting your craft, which will reflect in your reputation. But there is a square with people in your relationship sector or business partnerships. So either you're dedicating more time to your career than to your spouse and they are not liking it, or you're taking more of a predominant role in a business partnership and they are offering resistance. So you might encounter some kind of disruption with some other person that adds stress to this new beginning. So for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this falls in your 9th house of expansion, belief systems, publishing, long-distance travel, higher education, or teaching, and is in a square with Uranus in your 6th house of daily routine, work, and health, and also pets. So there's a new beginning that is related to expanding yourself, either through a higher education program or traveling abroad, or you could start teaching or publishing, or there's an expansion of your belief system and a new sense of believing in yourself. But there is some kind of disruption coming from the daily routine, your work, or health sector. So either you're expanding yourself and your schedule with new activities, and that is disrupting your daily routine and is not sitting well with your health, or new demands at work are competing with your goals and aspirations, or you could have a new belief system that changes your daily life or the service that you choose to provide to the world. So for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this falls in your 8th house of trust and intimacy and also other people's money. And there's a square from Uranus in your 5th house of creativity, recreation, and procreation. So there's a new beginning in the way you invest your money, or a new beginning with shared resources and the money that you share with your significant other or a business partner, or some kind of new loan or inheritance. But there is some kind of disruption stemming from creative projects or your leisure time or your children that might be related to shared resources or trust issues, which is common in case of inheritances or divorce at the time of dividing the money, or the opposite at the time of getting married or starting a new creative project with a business partnership and having to merge financially. And finally, for Pisces, this new moon falls in your 7th house of partnerships, and there's a square to Uranus in your 4th house of home, family, and real estate. So there's a new beginning with a significant other or a business partner, but there's a disruption that comes from the home and family sector or the house and real estate. Like a new business partnership can take time away from home, or your family might not approve of your new relationship, or some kind of tension or conflict between your house or living situation and a new situation with another significant person in your life. So I hope this gives you an idea of how this new moon is gonna play out for you. And finally, where I can help you the most is with a private reading or with my new book, that is a book about you, which is basically a reading but in print. Here will go your name, your natal chart, the table of contents, an introduction, my bio, your natal chart, 10 pages with all information about you that is worth it for a lifetime, your numerology, then your lunar progressions, that is like a chapter in your life, and then we have horoscope, 1 month per page and 1 week per paragraph, and this is worth it for a long year. And then you have other offers of my readings, my contact information, website, and social media. And that's it, folks. Contact me for your copy. And if you want a book for you, please allow for a month production between writing the book, sending it to print, and delivery. And I accept payment through PayPal to friends of family and Zelle. And all the information is in astrologybyvirginia.com. And please send me your full name as you use today, your date of birth with place of birth, and if you have time of birth too, and delivery address. And with that, I will leave you for now. It takes me a while to make these videos and just a sec to like, and it makes a world of a difference. So please, please, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Thank you for your time, and remember, I will never reach out to you, so be aware of scammers. See you in the next one. Namaste.